I wanted to add a disclaimer for this video. In this episode, my guest and I talk about sensitive topics like mental health, depression, anxiety, and self-harm. If these are topics that you are sensitive to, please proceed with caution. I'm posting the timestamps of when we discuss those topics so you can skip over them if you need to. If you're wanting to skip over the parts where we discuss this, that is minutes 20 to minutes 30. If you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis, please contact the NAMI helpline. You can call 1-800-950-NAMI or text helpline to 62640.
I'm gonna get so many mean comments of people just being like, bro, that was evil.
Oh no, I'm nervous.
When you see the thumbnail for that episode, it's gonna be, I think, episode 41, you're gonna be like, oh, I think I knew what she changed.
Oh my god. Bro, you're making me so nervous. I'm so glad I'm getting this inside scoop. This is amazing. Hi, Ro. Thank you for coming onto the podcast. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Very excited to talk to you as well.
Yeah, I was reading Starcatcher like a while back, and I was like, I gotta get her on the podcast. And then you actually applied for it, and so I was like, yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I saw that you had done a podcast with a couple of my friends that I saw, so they were sharing it, and I'm like, I want to get on that too. Let me just slide into those DMs real quick, fill out those little forms for like, you want to talk to me? And you did, so yay!
Yay! Yes, I'm so excited. I was just like, I could finally ask her all my questions.
All of the details, give me all the spoilers.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's just get into it. Kind of give us an introduction to who you are and your webcomic, or webcomics if you want to talk about all of them.
All of them, yeah. Well, hi, I'm ROTANIAH or Jess. Ro, I have a million names, but you can call me either or. Ro or Jess is completely fine. I have been creating webcomics for the past about 5 years. I started on Webtoon Canvas with absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was just like, hey, here's my OCs, hope you like it. And then people are like, I like these OCs, so I kept doing it until originally it became a little bit of a bigger creator, and eventually got my own original series, which is pretty cool. So
and you just hit 100,000 subscribers.
I did. The Webtoon gods finally blessed me and gave me a banner slot, so we love to see that promotion.
Love to see it.
Who's she? Love that. Not me just being like, read my gay boys, please. But yeah, very exciting. So I create Starcatcher on Webtoon Originals. I also create Star Children on the Webtoon Canvas, and also the Exorcist Bracelet on Webtoon Canvas. So I have a nice little variety of genres there. I just love my OCs. I like telling stories, and I like drawing funny characters that are relatable, so we love to see that. But I think we're going to be mostly talking about Starcatcher today. That's what everyone wants to talk about, because it's my big one. But just like a little synopsis, it's just like Starcatcher is a heartwarming romance drama series tackling the themes of mental health, self-love, and acceptance. It follows Lucas Lockhart, who is a depressed introvert, and his best friend and crush, Thomas Fisher, the easygoing extrovert, as they attend Star Valley University together. The story kind of highlights how trauma can really affect someone's ability to recognize trust and love, and kind of be ready for that next stage of relationship. But with some time and a lot of patience and care, you can eventually heal. Funny enough, Starcatcher is actually a normal world alternate universe of my main series, Star Children. So Starcatcher focused on the male twin, Lucas, while Star Children focuses on the female twin, Maria. Definitely did not expect Starcatcher to blow up and get offered the originals contract. It was just supposed to be my fun little thing, but here we are. It's now the one that most people recognize me by at this point.
So how were you expecting to get an offer for Starcatcher, or were you more anticipating Star Children?
I kind of had it had been like over 4 years at that point when I started Starcatcher in versus Star Children, so I kind of was like, I'm probably not gonna get an offer. Like, I'm just gonna be doing my thing. You know, I work a full-time office job.
Still, you work a full-time office job?
I still work a full-time office job. For context, I work at a financial institution. Will not name the one, but I work as a supervisor, and I handle like fraud and digital services and all that sort of stuff. It's a very stressful job, and drawing is my de-stressor. So I thought I was just gonna do that, you know, for my nice little comfort, and then on my side would be still pursuing my passion to do art. And I was like, I'll just draw my 3 comics. We'll just have a good time. I'll do my Patreon content. And then my editor, Nicole, just kind of slid into my DMs in my email, and she was like, hello, I would like your story. And I'm like, hello, I am crying. Here you go. And then like 4 months later, I signed my contract, and 3 months after that, I launched. I was just in the middle, like, just doing my own thing. And then I got an email. I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh my God. I literally screamed, and my husband, like, came up and he was like, are you okay? Like, emotionally, no. Physically, yes. Look at this email. I literally just, like, did not know what to do. Like, I was so excited, and, like, so much adrenaline rushing through my body. Obviously, I immediately responded, and then, like, was like, okay, what's the waiting period? The waiting for a date back. So, can you please not be doing this when I am talking? It's fine. Monty, for everyone who wants to see my little gremlin. Monty!
For all of our listeners listening, she's showing us her adorable dog, Monty.
Yes. There are plenty of pictures of him are on my Instagram stories when I'm doing my Q&A, and also my creator profile when I do not have an appropriate screenshot to provide for a post. I just provide dog pictures. Yeah, I was just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So it was very long process because it was going towards the end of the year. So like it was like mid-December is when she originally reached out to me, and then she had to pitch it and get it greenlit.
Yeah.
And then it was December, and nothing gets done at Webtoon Corporate in December. So I had to wait until January to get the initial contract, and then I had to do some negotiations, and then I signed in March. So it was very stressful.
Yeah.
Like 4 months.
Many months of just kind of in this waiting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and then that's when also the same time period I had my little medical fiasco. So it was like that plus this and that and that. And I'm like, can I just have the world just come together for me just a little bit? Okay, cool. I am now officially signed. The world can now be at peace.
So what was it like to pitch your series to Webtoon? Because I've heard a little bit about what the process is like, but what was it like for you?
I had no idea what I was doing. They gave me like just things of like material that they wanted to see. Like it was more of like, hey, what is your plan with the story? Like, how many seasons are you planning? Where is the story gonna go? That sort of thing. So I just provided a lot of concept art that I already had. I supplied the storyboards of what I hadn't written yet. I supplied episodes that I had made but weren't released yet to Webtoon, because the nice thing about Webtoon Canvas is when you're doing well there and get picked up, you already have proof that the series can do well, versus if you're just pitching a story that has no backing to it.
Yeah.
So I pretty much just wrote out my idea of like the first, the second, and third season, did all of my concept art, and then answered some general questions that they had, gave it to my editor Nick, and then I heard back like a month later, and they're like, you're greenlit, good job. And I'm like, cool. Like, yay. The series that I want to pitch afterwards, I'm creating more of a formal pitch booklet, which is like kind of like a PowerPoint sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, where it's all nice and concise, versus like a 4-page word essay about my gay boys and then a bunch of concept art. So it's a little bit more easier in the eyes this time. So that's just how my experience went.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, because I've had people ask, and I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, I got you.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, let's get into more about Starcatcher. What inspired you to create it? Because I know you were creating Star Children as like your main comic. So what inspired you to create Starcatcher?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been creating comics seriously since 2019, and I've drawn pretty much every single day since launching Star Children, just to kind of keep up
Wow.
with the workload, and that's also like how my art improved so much. I was just starting to get really burnt out, not so much from the drawing part, but just on like the story itself. My skill level had rapidly increased in such a short period of time, both as an artist and also as a writer, as I was learning, as I was making Star Children. And I just felt like my skill level had surpassed the limitations that my old self had made for that story. Like, I made a lot of very immature mistakes for Star Children that if I were to go back to fix it, it would be a lot of work or it would create a lot of confusion for my readers. And I just really felt stuck. I ended up taking like almost a year-long hiatus. I started working on another series where I felt like I was a little bit more creative. And but I still really love those characters. I still love Maria. I still love Lucas, Thomas, M, Stella, Cheru, all of them. So I still wanted to utilize them, but I didn't feel ready to work on Star Trek again because as soon as I did, I immediately went back to feeling burnt out. It was really impacting my mental health. I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. So I was like, hey, what if I just make a short little side comic where it's just Lucas and Thomas? They are major fan favorites. I always get a million comments saying how much they love those two, that they wish they would get to see them more because they were just more supporting side characters in Star Children. So I was like, okay, I'll just do like really fun short style comic, like couple of panels an update. I won't update it very much, just once a week, just like 6 panels. It'll just be short and sweet of them just having their little shenanigans, being in love, all that sort of stuff. So like it's a win-win. I get to draw the characters I really want. I get to draw something cute. I still get to pose, and I'm not burnt out. Obviously, the story ended up being way more than that. I can't control myself, especially with my characters. So yeah, it got really popular really, really fast. I did like 2 collabs with some other really larger BL creators on Webtoon Canvas, and it really grew my following. Obviously, also people moving from Star Children to read Starcatcher. So I felt like, oh, I actually have to plan a story out now to keep readers' interest. But that's why I'm really thankful for the opportunity to move to originals, because now I can go back and be like, okay, I can actually plan out a story instead of just being, here's my gay boys.
So what was it like moving from Canvas to originals? Like what were the things that you had to kind of do differently this time around?
Well, the first thing is like I actually had to get my drafts approved by an editor, so like I can't just make episodes and be like, here you go. Like I had to get feedback and work on it, which really helps me out a lot. Especially at the beginning. I don't get a lot of feedback now because I don't want to say I'm on my own, but my editor is like, this looks good. I trust you. I like the story that you're making. Especially now that it's well into the story at this point. I think first the biggest challenge was having to go back and redraw the episodes I've already done before and be like, I really don't want to do this again. I want to get to the fun stuff because I had just gotten to a point where the boys could do the little smooching and dating. Now I have to go back to the beginning. So it was just having to go back again, add extra stuff. I had to meet a certain panel count. So I have like to do like 40 panels an episode, which is not bad. My first couple episodes were definitely well more than that. But it was just trying to find a good pacing of the story. I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want it to feel too slow. I had to just find like that nice equal balance to where I can get what I want out of this second chance to tell the story, give my OG readers more content. That way they're not waiting for forever to get up to the point that we were.
Yeah. Was it kind of nerve-wracking to get the feedback on it from your editor?
Oh my gosh, yes. It was very, very good feedback. But when I know like I'm getting feedback on something, I'm a very worried person. I have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of imposter syndrome, so like my fear was I was going to give her my storyboards and she was going to be like, this is awful, Jessica. I cannot believe you. Oh my God. Like, why did I pick you up and that stuff? But in reality, it was like, I love this panel. I love the sequence. You should add this for some buns. You should end it here for a really mean cliffhanger. So it was all really good feedback, but it was just kind of like that nervousness that I have of getting that kind of feedback of like me not knowing what to expect. But now the feedback I expect is pretty much exactly what I was thinking. So we're really much on the same page, which is awesome.
That's good. Yeah, it definitely helps when you have an editor that you really click with too.
Yeah, I get along with my editor really, really well.
Yeah, so that's great. So let's get into more of like the story of Starcatcher. Can you tell me about how you came up with the overall story, and then maybe talk more about the protagonist, Lucas?
Yeah, so with the story itself, I'm a very character-driven writer. That was also some of the reasons why I got burnt out on like Star Children, because it's a very plot-driven story where that's not really how I write. I very much am a give me some characters in a scenario and then I'll just let the characters determine what's going on. So if I'm trying to hit certain plot points, it's harder for me. So while thinking back on the story, I was like, okay, I'm going to be writing a story where Lucas is the main character. It's going to have to be something about mental health. It's going to have to be how he, as a person who's gone through so much trauma in the past, learns to basically love and accept himself again, and also, you know, have his little boo Thomas, you know, them meeting each other, you know, Lucas, you know, getting out of his shell, becoming that little ray of sunshine again, and also unknowingly helping Thomas as well, because we won't really be getting it in the season 1, but in season 2 we're going to be getting more into Thomas's own mental health and his own struggles that he very much masks. So I wanted to highlight a lot of references to Star Children, since it is an alternate universe, it's still the same characters. So I thought, well, I can make the star catching festival with all the meteor showers and all the stargazing reference back to the characters in Star Children, because that was a key thing that they like to do, is to watch the stars because of Star Children. So, yeah. So I added that element there, and I just had the thought of like, okay, well, this will just be like a slow burn. This will just them getting comfortable with each other. You know, not everything has to be that set in stone confession, kiss, dating. It can be kind of out of order, or, you know, you got to take your time when it comes to certain things. So that was kind of, I guess, like the story. It's going to be dealing a lot with like processing trauma and like getting through it, healing, that sort of thing. But for Lucas himself, or just the twins in general, Lucas and Maria, they're kind of like myself. Insert OCs in a way. It's the best way I can describe them. Their personalities and like key themes are kind of based off of me and my own experiences. Maria represents more of like the physical, you know, aspects, especially with like chronic disease. I had skin cancer when I was a child, and now that I have type 1 diabetes, I'm dealing with an ongoing condition. And she's more of the, I like to say, light and hopeful side of me, whereas Lucas represents more of the mental aspects when it comes to dealing with trauma, mental health, depression, anxiety, that sort of thing. And like the more depressed and gloomy side of me, the more pessimist, realism, that sort of thing. He struggles with mental health very much like my own, so I just kind of translated that onto his character. So Lucas is very much like an authentic me in a way. Same with Maria, but when it comes to writing him, he's one of the easiest characters for me to write, because I would just, this is how I would interact, or this is how I would act in a specific interaction. So it just makes it easier for me to write a story. Yeah.
I think it's, you know, especially when you have a personal experience with those themes in writing a story, it definitely makes it more realistic of a portrayal than if somebody was writing about it that had no experience with it personally. It's handled really well in Starcatcher.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Having like realistic characters, like characters that you can connect with is something that I really pride myself for, that I feel like I've done a really good job with that throughout all of my stories. Because I know that when I consume content or like I read a story, if I cannot connect with the character, then I'm just gonna be like meh. So, and I just think like it's just more of, again, the type of writer that I am. I'm definitely more character driven, so I put a lot of thought and effort into their personalities and how they would say certain things. And every character is very dimensional. They're not always going to act the same in every situation. It just, people learn, they grow, they develop. Some people they can regress. It's just try to make it as natural as possible.
Yeah. And that is like a realistic outlook on people who deal with mental health struggles and trauma. It's never a linear progression. No, it's always not. Really up and down. You take one step forward and then you end up taking 2 steps back. It's just kind of how the process goes when healing. But I think it's a really important theme to have, especially in maybe if we're just being specifically like in the Webtoon space. I feel like having that representation is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very, very happy with all the feedback that I have gotten in this story. It's been, especially like dealing with the episodes where, Lucas had his panic attack and how he acted, how I visualized it, and also Thomas's reaction to it. It was just really nice to see a lot of people pick up all the small details that I added in and how they felt like they really could relate to it, that they felt something. Because that's like the biggest compliment that I feel like an artist or an author can really have, is like you gave this kind of emotional connection to someone, like you made them feel something, and I'm like, yes, excellent, this is good. Yeah.
That connection can also help the reader feel validated in their own struggles.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think sometimes, those of us that do deal with it, we get trapped in this bubble of just not knowing how to deal with it and feeling lonely. So having that representation in a webcomic, I think, is really important.
For sure.
So how can we as we as creators, how can we bring more awareness to these struggles if that's something that we want to shed light on?
I feel like making sure that we're just handling with grace is the big thing. Because I know that people, especially on like Book Talk, they love their dark romances. They love their toxic BL. They love their which is like, if you like that kind of content, sure. But for me, like, I want something that's authentic and healthy. But for like mental health, I think the understanding of it, that, let's say, for example, if Lucas was having his panic attack and Thomas just came in, swooping in, gave him a hug, and immediately, oh my gosh, I'm no longer sad and depressed anymore. That's not how it is. That's not the reality of it. So I think getting rid of those types of tropes where the love interest can just cure whatever mental illness or problem that they're facing, I kind of want to do away with that trope because it's not realistic at all. But just kind of, doing your research and just trying to see like realistically what would happen in this situation, not just so that you can get that kind of baited romance moments, or not even though this is a romance story, not everything has to be about romance. It's about the characters growing to trust each other. So it just handle it with care. See what would be the best in that situation for the characters. If you have to move some stuff around for your plot to make it work, do it, but don't just use mental health as a trope in order to advance your romance. Just, if you're going to use mental health in your story, just make sure you're portraying it accurately. Don't romanticize it, but don't glorify it, but also just, put your trigger warnings. Make sure that you're showing the healthy way of how to deal with it versus an unhealthy way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all those points. I feel like if a creator is wanting to include that, or even if they're a writer wanting to include that in a book they're writing, you want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and not wanting to use it as like you said, a way to
drama
drive the
bait.
romance.
Yeah. The
Or just
drama
create,
bait. And I'm like, no, don't.
yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna leave a bad taste in my mouth if I read that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't handle that properly, but we'll
Yes.
see.
I really appreciate that, Lucas has his depression and self-harm issues, but, Tommy also has his issues as well. He's just masks it a lot more
Yeah,
than
he masks
Lucas.
it a lot. He's very much a people pleaser. So we're gonna get more hints of it in this season about his issues because he struggles a lot with he doesn't he receives a lot of pressure from his family. Like they want him to take over his company. They want him to have like a wife and kids and all this sort of thing. And Tommy's like, I don't want any of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's realizing that he's queer. He's realizing that he loves music too much to give it up. And, being with Lucas has made him realize that he doesn't want to give up that part of himself in order to make his family happy. He wants to be happy on his own. So we're going to see more of those struggles. That continuing theme of like self-acceptance and self-love. It's just like Thomas needs to learn to love himself, to stand up for himself, and be able to live for himself, and not just to make other people in his life happy. And Lucas is going to be a big driver of that. He already has started that by encouraging him to continue on with his passions for music, listening to him whenever he's super interested in things, because that's not something that he gets from his family. So we're not going to see too much of it this season, but again, season 2 is going to be very angsty and I cannot wait. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, what would you tell somebody right now who's listening that may be dealing with mental health struggles?
So I'll be very honest. I've dealt with mental health pretty much all my life. I've gone through a lot, especially this past year after my near-death experience. The big thing is just to remind yourself to just take it day by day. Like the world may feel like it's crashing down right now, but you're still able to get up in the morning. There's people out there who feel the same way as you, so you're never alone. Just try your best, I guess.
Yeah.
Just I've gone through therapy a lot, and she's constantly telling me that I go through this vicious cycle of like, hey, I'm doing great, I'm not doing great anymore. Recovery, it's not a linear process like you were saying earlier. You will have those steps forwards, you will have those steps back. It's not an even plateau that you walk on your road to recovery. So just give yourself as much grace as possible. Try to, whatever hobbies or interests that you have, don't give up on them. It may be really hard to motivate yourself to participate in them, but just keep trying. Find something that you love to do. If you have friends, definitely talk to them. If you have the ability to speak to a therapist or a psychiatrist, I definitely encourage you to do that. But just remember that we all have something going on in our lives. We all have these feelings. It's guilt and sadness are very complex emotions. But yeah, just know you're not alone with it. There's definitely someone out there that can relate to you. Just keep trying. You'll have really great days. You'll have some bad days, and that's okay. Some days, as long as you are just okay, and that's great. If you're better, that's awesome, and if you're not so okay, that's okay too. Just keep trying, man.
Yeah. I feel like those are really good points to make, and just, very validating too. I feel like a lot of us can get stuck in that pressure of, no, I need to be consistently better. I need to be consistently improving every day, but it's just not realistic to.
Well, that path to recovery is definitely not a smooth one for me either. I've had a lot of stuff going on this past year where I've had a lot of highs and a lot of really low lows, but as long as I can just kind of pick myself back up and on my feet, That's what I'm going to try to do. I have a lot of really great support systems. I have my loving husband. I have really amazing friends. I have my 2 precious dogs. And then I also have a really engaging and amazing audience that reads my stories and gives me that extra push that I need every day to just keep, chugging along.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad that you have that. It's really difficult when you don't have a support system. It can feel very, very lonely and isolating.
Yeah, for sure. I think a big thing too, I'm a big culprit of this too, is self-sabotaging, where I don't feel like I deserve to have a good thing. And then I will push that good thing out of my life. It's just recognizing that you are worthy of love. You are worthy of having good things in your life. So, while you may not understand it in that moment, just know that you are worthy of having good things in your life. Learning to accept that is going to be a huge role in learning how to cope with your struggles and any trauma that you have. So long as you get a grasp of that coping mechanism, you'll definitely be able to make it through it.
Yeah. And I think it's important to try and maintain, like, if you can, try to be more positive when you can. Like, it's really difficult to just be more positive. A lot of the times we can get stuck.
Having a routine really helped me, because after getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I felt like I lost all control of my life. Like I had my routine down to a T. Like, this is when I got up in the morning. This is when I went to work. This is when I went home. This is when I would draw. This is when I would stop drawing. I had a very strict routine, and this is how I made it work. But after getting type 1 diabetes, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Because, my body's not able to make insulin anymore. So, like, I constantly have to adjust every single day. I could have a plan, but then suddenly I could have my blood sugar crashing, and now my plan is, I need to go eat now before I pass out, and now I have to recover before I can feel better, but now I'm no longer up for that task I was doing. Now I have to rearrange it and all that sort of stuff. So learning to get a routine and being able to maintain a fulfilled day-to-day life was a major step for me, where I was finally able to return back to work my full-time job, and then be able to balance doing the original work as well at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's, like, it's crazy to me that you're working a full-time job and producing an original when most originals that creators that I talk to are just swamped with creating their comic.
I go zoomy. I zoom. The little piece that I posted today for my little 100K, I did in like...
That was amazing.
It was like 45 minutes. I was like, I got an idea, let's go.
45 minutes!
I was like, let's go.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I've gotten really used to my process, so I'm like, okay, I got an idea in my head, let's go. And then I zoomed through, used my little airbrush tool, and I got it.
That's amazing. Maybe we could get into a little bit of time-saving tips since we're talking about it, because, like, I posted a Draw This in Your Style piece today, and it took me, like, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it took me like 16 hours to draw it. And I just... How do you do it? How do you keep up? Like, what are some time-saving tips that you have for other creators?
I do use the models instead of Clip Studio Paint. I used to do the thing where you would draw like your thumbnail, and then you would draw like a sketch, and then you do your liner over that sketch, and then you would go from there. I just grab the model, I pose it how I want it, and then I draw directly on top of that model with no sketch.
That's literally what I do. That is literally my process.
Yeah, so my big focus is like doing like the faces and the hair, and then once I do that, I just kind of zoom through the clothes. Like, I don't put as much detail in the clothes. Like, I'll do like a cute little outfit. Usually it's just like a hoodie and jeans for like the boys. If it's gonna be like one of my girls, I'll probably just base it off an outfit that I wear. Like, the outfit I'm wearing right now is literally basically the same outfit that Im is going to be wearing in an upcoming episode. Like, it's just, I'm like, okay, what would I wear? Okay, there it is. And I guess like the way that I color is pretty simple. So like I just like for the hair, I just do like the darkest color. I airbrush the top of it. I do a couple of squiggles for the highlight. I use airbrush again with the lightest color. I do a little extra strokes. Bam, I'm done. I can get that done. I can get full hair done in like 3 minutes, if that.
Amazing.
And then like for like coloring the skin, I just do like an airbrush on their cheeks and nose. I do the under chin highlight or shadow, and then I do like my very same highlights around the face. I don't do the whites of the eyes. We don't color the whites of the eyes. My coloring is very minimum, but I guess effective. So just playing around with tools, finding out if you can get the same results in a much faster way is something that I would suggest. And I do a lot of my final touches with layer effects, so like multiply, overlay, color dodge, soft light, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about, okay, this drawing is going to be in like a moody blue tone, so I need to find all my colors and that. No, I just take the colors that I always use, and then I just do my layer effects, and then boom, I can make any type of mood lighting that I want. I can correct the colors from there, and it saves me a lot of time.
Yeah.
I do use SketchUp for my backgrounds, so I just literally just move around my little body around SketchUp and like, that looks good. That looks proportioned right for the perspective. Okay, screenshot. Then I blur it a little bit in the background, and bam, full image. Just finding your process and then seeing what kind of shortcuts you can make.
Yeah, I noticed the way you transition between panels is really well done too. Like
the gutter space.
With the gutter space, like adding all of the effects and textures and colors, like I noticed I'm just like, it's so well done. I just love it.
Thank you. We're gonna have more of the little story backgrounds for a lot of the upcoming episodes, because some of the episodes that are coming out right now don't have it, and I'm like, why didn't I do these? I'm like, okay. Literally what I do is like I do it for one, then I copy and paste it into my next little set of panels. I flip it. That way it's just constantly doing that little squiggle down the line of the entire episode. But I enjoy doing that. And then for like my Supernatural series, I really liked adding a lot of like the textures in the background as well. I just felt like it just really helps set the mood. So it's just a great way to set the mood for your comic outside of like use the entire panel, like use the entire canvas if you can. That you can add so much to it by just adding those little extra elements there.
Yeah, and I think the way you do it is just really spot on to like set the mood and tone and just create that flow in like the visual aspect of the story.
Yeah, for sure. I try to like get it to where it kind of like matches the speech bubbles too. That way it kind of helps guide the eye.
Talking about your art process, but how did you find your art style? Like, who are the artists or other creators that inspire you?
So I get this question a lot. I really don't know how I developed my style. That kind of just like happened. Like I kind of mentioned before, I've been drawing every single day for the last 5+ years, so I've never really noticed like the big shifts of my style until like I go to look back at a panel or like a piece I made a couple months ago and see the differences from then and now. Right now, it has been more so like actual drawing. It's more so like the coloring. I've noticed big changes that I feel like I'm doing my color correction a lot better. I don't really know. I used to use a lot of references, but I've changed a couple of things. I don't really look at references at all anymore. I try to just make my poses look as, natural and as possible. The same with my composition. I feel like I would really benefit from looking at references at this point. But I wouldn't say like there was any like specific artists that inspired my actual art style, like how I draw. But when it comes to like adding detail and like colors, I have like a couple of them. So first thing is going to be my friend Linda. She's the creator of Plunder World and Bloodstain.
Yep.
I love her. love her so much. She's been a really big inspiration for me. Her and her husband are like an absolute powerhouse when it comes to comic creators.
Wait, does her husband also create a comic?
He does. He does Sunstone. He does I forgot the other one, but he also works for DC Comics. Like he's done some Harley Quinn series,
Oh, wow.
but they're both extremely talented comic creators.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
she has Plunder World, which is another retelling of Persephone and Hades, which I absolutely love. I really love her take on it.
Mm.
And then Bloodstain, which is a little mad scientist and his assistant, and I love them so much. But you know, her use of color, her compositions, like the amount of detail that she does, and like her background she makes all by hand, and just the love and dedication that she puts in her pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Mwah, love her. I want to be like her when I grow up, honestly. I tell her that every day. It's like, Linda, I love you. I want to be like you. Thank you for being my friend. Some other creators would be like Tiny Paint. They're the creator of Ava's Demon. I would say that they are a huge inspiration of like my use of very vibrant color. Zach, the creator of, or Peglo, the creator of To the Stars and Back, when it comes to creating the really like wholesome, like funny characters. Wendy Martin, the creator of Castle Swimmer, Rachel, Lord Olympus. Castle Swimmer and Lord Olympus is the reasons why I started reading webtoons. And also Rose Oak, Not So Silent. I just love like how her characters are just so squishy. Like I just want to like their cheeks. I just want to squish them. And then my friends, RNS, they are also my flat assistants. I just love their storytelling so much. I love all the details they put into their comics as well. I love their backgrounds, and I have commissioned them many times to do backgrounds for me because I'm like, I can't do it as good as you. Please help me. So those are a good little handful of creators, I would say, just inspire me in general. I wouldn't say they have influenced my style, but they've definitely inspired me to keep being better, to continue to develop myself, because I just see them working so hard. So I just want to do the same thing, just keep on trying to be as best as I can.
Yeah, I think it's important to, like, if you want to improve, to look at what your favorite artists are doing, not to steal, like, not to steal or copy their art style, but, take inspiration. Yeah. Like, the first web comic, like, the first original I read was Siren's Lament, and, Miso's style really evolved throughout that series. And, I was like, oh, I really love her really clean line art and her more like vibrant colors. I was also really inspired by Bianca Lauren. She's the creator of Everwake. She's amazing. Like, she's one of my favorite canvas creators. She's, and I really loved her really clean style as well. Yeah, but I think like sometimes we as artists can struggle to like develop an art style and to figure out what we want to do. Like if we're webcomic creators, like you said, you have been drawing for 5+ years, like almost every day. And, during that time, your style will just naturally improve and your process will improve.
For sure. And I think that also is the reason why I draw so fast, is because that entire time I was drawing comics. So like my style became my art comic style. So a lot of artists who are illustrators and then going into comics, they feel like they're super slow. It's because they're so used to spending so much time on a piece. But with comic making, you gotta make panels quick. In order to meet those deadlines. If you want to have like 40 panel updates, like you gotta make sure, like, if it's gonna take you an hour each, that's a 40-hour week, right? So I think just kind of me becoming more of a comic artist versus an illustrator kind of helped me be fast, because my style in my comic is just my style. When I do illustrations, it just looks like one of my comic panels, because I'm like, I don't know how to make this fancier than I already do. Like, I don't know how to make, unless I just add a little bit extra detail in the clothes folds and a little bit extra shading. Other than that, I don't know what I'm doing. Here's my comic. Here you go.
So what would you tell an artist who maybe wants to be a webcomic creator, what would be your advice to have them get started?
Just go for it, man. So that's kind of why I did it. Like, honestly, when I first started making Stray Children, I had no idea what the plot was going to be. Like, I had a concept, I had characters. I didn't flesh out those characters. I didn't know what their personalities were going to end up being. And I just started making it. I was like, you know what, we'll figure it out as we go. And sometimes that's exactly what you need in order to start that push. Now, do I regret it in some aspects when it comes to storytelling wise? Absolutely, I regret it. But it got me started and it made me learn a whole lot. So just know your first comic does not have to be a masterpiece. It does not have to be your best work ever. It just can be your practice comic. So just practice. Like, start doing some cute little panels. You can do something that's a short format. I don't encourage doing a very long running series as your first comic, just because you are going to learn very fast and you might set limitations on yourself that's going to prevent you from doing things that you want to do, speaking from experience. So just do a one shot. Like, just, make a quick outline of a story, make some characters, and have some fun with it. If you were going to launch a series, I definitely recommend having a minimum of 3 episodes when you do launch, especially on for like Canvas and such. You want to have enough content where people can read it and be interested. Usually the hook of your story happens by the 3rd episode. That's usually a good indicator. People are willing to give it 3 episodes before they either drop or continue a series. So, definitely jump on it. Don't go too ham. Don't burn yourself out. Give yourself grace. Prepare yourself for it. But I just say go for it. Just have fun. Have your friends read it. Every time I finish an episode, I have a little reading session with my friends. I'm like, hey, I finished, and I scroll through, we read it together. They do the same thing when they finish their episodes. And it's just nice just to kind of get that immediate feedback. And then just go for it. That's what I say. Go for it. Do it. Do it.
Do it. Just do it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, that every time I ask a creator this question, the answer is the same, is to just go for it. Yeah. Because you won't
think about it too much. You're gonna just never do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people's issue, or maybe like struggle, is they want to do really well because they're putting something out into the world and they want it to be well received. They don't want to, they want to do it really well. And, I think if it's their first comic, try to have low expectations.
Yes.
And
high hopes, low expectations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was when I started Stray Children. Like, I didn't have any kind of following when I started. Like, I had maybe a couple of Instagram followers, barely 100 Instagram followers. I had no social media presence at all. So I just started posting. I was just like, here's my first episode. Yeah. There you go. 2 days later, I'm like, here's another one. Here's another one. I was just kind of consistent with that. And then that's when, the good old days, the golden era of Webtoon, in the 2020 period where everyone was forced to stay home. More people discovered it by, it got recommended by the Webtoon staff, or staff picks, or whatever it was called back then, and just more people started to read it. So, sometimes it is luck when it comes to getting discovered, but the main thing is just making sure that you have fun, because readers can tell when you are genuinely having fun with the story and when you are not.
Yeah.
Don't be going into comic making because you want to make money out of it. You can make money with it. However, it is a lot of work, so you got to decide if it's worth it or not. And getting to the point where you can make a consistent income with comics does take a lot of time. So in the meantime, just have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
If you make stories because you want to make stories, we definitely, I want to earn money from it because, I'm putting a lot of my time and effort into it, and that's very valuable time. But I would still do it even if I don't make money, because I love telling stories and I love my people reading my stories. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody aspiring to be a creator or somebody who is an experienced creator? What would you say is the most important thing that they should keep in mind while they
Being
create their
consistent.
comic?
Being consistent. So a big thing that I commonly see is inconsistent updates. And I can definitely understand it for, like, there's multiple factors that go into it. I've had my own inconsistent updates, right? Life happens.
Yeah.
But if you really want to pursue and grow your comic, it's very important to kind of keep in mind what you can realistically do within a week and kind of going from there. The most optimal results is going to be if you can post weekly. That is fantastic. A lot of Webtoon's metrics are based off of if you are updating once a week. A lot of, like, their ranking systems for, like, the top 30 per genre for Canvas is based on weekly updates. So if you're not updating weekly, you're not going to be within that cycle. So what I would do is, like, if you have to make your episodes into different parts where you're updating maybe shorter updates, but you're at least updating weekly, that can really help. Or maybe you don't want to do that. You want to have the longer updates. Maybe that's what your story needs. Okay, do bi-weekly. Do it every 2 weeks. Maybe some of them can go by month. As long as you're consistent with it, that's what really matters. That way the readers can know when they can expect more from you. Because when a reader goes into a webcomic and they see that they have one update from, like, March of 2020, and then the next update isn't until, like, October of 2020, and then the next one isn't until March of 2021, and, like, there's, like, these huge gaps in between updates and they're never consistent, they're not going to want to read it because it's like, well, I don't know when the story's going to update again. Why should I get invested into the story that is inconsistent? I very much am a believer in buffer. If you're gonna launch a story and you're unsure if you're able to keep up with the workload, then make a lot of the story beforehand. Break up the episodes. That way you can kind of do little bits and pieces there.
Yeah.
And that way you can have a more consistent schedule. But also a big thing too is communication with your readers. If you are going to have a break, you can use your creator profile to be like, hey guys, sorry, there's no update. I have a lot of stuff going on right now. You don't have to divulge your information. Just don't disappear without letting them know.
Yeah.
Communication with your readers and consistency. Those are the biggest things. It will really help create that connection with your audience. And once you have a connected audience, it will really help boost that engagement. Having those loyal audience members will really help you in the long run when it comes to growing your comic as well.
Yeah. And there's series that just kind of drop off and I get really sad because I'm like, oh, I want more of this, but they haven't updated in like 6 months.
Right. Yeah. And then there's, like, no communication on their creator page, and I'm like, are you okay? Are you alive?
Yeah.
Are you breathing?
Yeah.
I would like to know if you're breathing.
There are times where a series will come back and I'm just like, oh, like, I was reading, there's a Canvas comic called Kruger and Faust, and I was reading it, like, very consistently whenever they would update. And then the creator didn't update for like 2 years, and then they just barely put out like a new episode, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's back. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm just not gonna read it. I was like, no, I was like really excited. I was like, oh, it's back. Maybe it won't be back like consistently, but hey, a new episode, like, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the things that I see a lot of, like, the smaller creators really struggle with is consistency. And then, like, they're like, why am I not getting engagement? It's like, well, it's because you haven't uploaded any content.
Yeah.
So upload content, and then stuff will happen, hopefully. But it's also just kind of knowing that the market is pretty saturated as well. So definitely learn how to do self-promotion. There's definitely a lot of creators out there who have provided a lot of really great advice of how to promote your comic. Just be consistent, and then fingers crossed, as long as you're giving good content, you should hopefully get a breakthrough sometime.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be an original creator. Like, if you asked me 4 years ago, I'll be like, no, I don't think I'm good enough. I still don't think I'm good enough at this point. But, you know, it happens, right?
Yeah. I think, like, I would also iterate to other creators is don't have getting an offer or getting money to be your main motivator to create the comic, because if you set yourself up to have these expectations for it and they don't happen, then you'll eventually just not want to create your webcomic.
Yeah.
So it's just important to always maintain, like, you're doing it for you and because you enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely wanting to make money from it is definitely awesome. That's why we have Patreon.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, being able to make it as a comic creator is very hard. There is a lot of effort that you have to put, a lot of sacrifices that you have to make for it, and it may not always be worth it in some cases. But as long as you have the drive and passion and you genuinely enjoy doing what you're doing and you have a good support system, you're gonna be just fine. So make a lot of connections, collab with other creators. That's a really great way to help grow, especially if you're newer. Join the mini Canvas Webtoon services that they are. Do some of their community events. You'll be able to make friends with a lot of other creators, and you'll be able to make those connections, which can then turn into recommendations, which can then turn to expanding your audience as well.
Yeah. And I think something that has really helped me, because I also struggle with being consistent with updates. Like, my life stuff happens, and I won't get
totally
into it, but life happens, and it can be hard. But even when I am struggling, I always have that. I was like, oh, I just want to draw. But sometimes I have a block, and I'm just like, oh, I have the desire, but getting myself to do it is hard sometimes. But
felt that.
Yeah. I will say something that has helped me get subscribers in between my updates. And sometimes I don't get subscribers when I update. It's just a matter of how it goes, right? But
definitely been there.
Yeah. Something that's helped me is do banner swaps with other creators. And that can be difficult if you're an aspiring creator, or if you just started and you don't have a community. I would say try, like, social media is great. But I would say try to connect with people with the intention of how can I help them? How can I benefit them? Like, what can I do for them? And that could be just sharing their posts in your stories. That could even just be messaging them saying like I really love your comic, or I really love your art. And that can help you, like, connect with people.
Because you don't want to just network someone because you want something out of them. You want to build genuine connections with other creators, because that can really help you as well. Also, we love friends. We love having someone else that knows our exact struggles of being a comic creator in 2025. So but yeah, I would say when I joined my first collab, I feel like that really helped me grow as a creator, and then that just also expanded me being able to have the friends that I have to this day that go beyond of just being my comic friend. They're like my genuine friends now. Not to say my comic friends aren't my genuine friends, but it's like a different level. We talk we play games together, right? Talk about personal things, all that sort of stuff. So I think if you're unsure of where to start, definitely join there is the official Webtoon Canvas server that you can join. There's a lot of really great resources there. There's a lot of other creators that talk in those channels, so you can start just there. And then if you find someone that belongs in your specific niche, like if you do a lot of queer content like BL, GL, if you do like horror, sci-fi, whatever, you can always reach out to that person directly. like maybe through like Instagram DMs, being like, hey, I really love your story. I have a story similar to yours. Like, I just love XYZ about it. Would you be interested in doing like a banner shop with me? I want to help promote your comic, etc., etc., just like you mentioned before. I've done it a lot. That's what really helped Starcatcher grow when I was on Canvas. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of ways these days to connect with people. I mean, we as comic creators, we love talking about our webcomics. Like if somebody...
I will yap about my OCs all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you give a comic creator the opportunity to talk about their comic, they'll most likely there will be a positive response.
Yeah. And then some comic creators, they can be introverted, so just understand and respect boundaries. But
yeah, of course.
Most of us, if you give us an opportunity to talk about our OCs and our stories, we'll be like, yep, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think those are all really good things to keep in mind and try to do. Because when I started first making my comic, when I first started like drawing, it was like 2021. It was really lonely for me. I didn't have the community.
I felt the same way. Yeah, I think it was until 2021 is when I first like started interacting with more other creators, and I'm like, you understand the struggles that I have.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just people love talking about their work, and everyone in like the artist community and the webcomic creator community are just so positive.
Yeah, it's really great. We love it.
So let's get into our fan questions.
Sounds good.
I had a really hard time deciding between them.
I know. Right?
I feel like sometimes, like when I get questions for creators, a lot of them will be like plot related. But yeah, okay. Let's just start. So our first question, Looney Len Art asked, do you still consider Star Children to be your main comic, with Starcatcher being an original now?
Yeah, I do. So the big thing is that Starcatcher is still just an alternate universe. While the story that I want to tell with it is still very important, it's not the true story that I want to tell with those particular characters. So, I mean, what we have with Lucas and Thomas, I really helped develop them in the story, and that's them being their authentic self. But when it comes to like my other characters, like with like Maria and Cheru and Stella and Soleil and Calliope, the stories that I want to tell with them isn't showcased in Starcatcher. I have made such a big, expansive universe for Star Children that there's no way it cannot be my main series, because of the way that it connects all to my other stories. I pretty much is the ROTANIAH multiverse is what I like to call it. Pretty much all of my stories are some kind of alternate universe based off of Star Children, just because of a major plot point that I have in it. With Cheru being the god of void and cycles, he's basically the god of reality, where he can basically reset it depending if it's going to be an imperfect universe or something goes wrong. So in my eyes, Starcatcher is just that perfect universe from the Star Children series, where all of my characters can be happy and not traumatized. Well, not all of them are happy. Some of them are still traumatized, but like there's no like intergalactic war between like celestial beings and all that sort of stuff. So I still very much want to make Star Children, like I'm going to reboot it, and I'm going to give it all of my effort at some point. Especially now with the world building that I have created over these past, 5 years, I still consider it like that is my baby. I love it.
Yeah.
Like I love that story. It's just, Starcatcher, it gets this cute little moment right now. But sometime down the road, Star Children will have its moment, and it will be better because it's going to have cool things. Like, it has magic in it, so it has to be the cool one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like probably Starcatcher will be what most people will recognize me from at this point, probably moving forward. But my goal is eventually to work on Star Children again and show people why it's my main comic.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so our next question. Alma Patricia asked, will Luke's mental health ever recover?
So kind of like how we talked about earlier about how mental health is not a linear progression. To say that he will fully recover, absolutely not. No. Trauma quite literally changes your brain chemistry to help you adapt to trauma. It adapts to how you can learn how to cope. So his brain physiologically is different from how it was before he experienced that trauma. It's something that I've talked a lot about with my own therapist of like, am I going to be who I was before all of this stuff happened to me? And the answer is no. So the question more so should be, will Luca's mental health be a part where he can cope and have a fulfilled life? 100% yes. That's the whole goal of the story, is him being able to have those coping mechanisms where he can continue to live his life to the fullest, where every single day he takes it as it is, he has the support system, and he can live a healthy life. Will he have moments where he regresses and, you know, he has those triggers, he has those bad days? Absolutely, because that's just what it happens. That's what it's like to have mental health issues. It doesn't fully ever go away. But as long as you take the steps to love yourself and to try your best to cope with whatever trauma that you can have a very fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Our next question, Jared Blow asked, what was the most challenging part of taking the series and updating it for the Webtoon Originals version?
Kind of talked about it earlier, but was having to redraw all those dang scenes at the beginning. Just like figuring out like the pacing and stuff like that, because I knew I was going to change quite a bit of it, because when I originally made Canvas, I kind of rushed it towards the end because I knew I was getting the original deal and I wanted to give my readers a little bit of something before I ended the canvas and restarted.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to be changing quite a bit. So I had to think of that, but also like, what parts can I add at the beginning to help me set up future plot points? So it was just trying to get everything I had before, change it to something where it's still basically the same story, but also different, to where it's fresh and it's, you know, going with what I want it to be. And then kind of going from there, just like finding the pacing of it. One of the big things was that I did something differently. I actually wrote the entire first season, like I storyboarded everything.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was going, I edited along the way, and I made a very big impulsive change in an upcoming episode that resulted in me having to rewrite the last 30 episodes. So there's 70 episodes in total.
Oh, wow.
And around episode 41, I made a very big impulsive change. You guys are gonna like this change. However, when I wrote this episode, I'm like, I'm gonna have to change all the episodes I just wrote.
Oh my goodness.
But I consider myself a very organic writer. Again, I'm very character driven. So as I'm writing, I'm constantly editing myself. I'm like, oh, I have a better idea. I can make this go along better. So as I was beginning to line it, I changed the panel, and I'm like, it'd be better if they did this instead of that. You know what? I'm gonna go with it. However, I'm gonna suffer those consequences, and to this day, I'm still suffering the consequences because I'm still finishing writing the end. It's fine. Everyone will like it. I'm gonna get so many mean comments of people just being like, "Bro, that was evil."
Oh no, I'm nervous. I'm so nervous now. Maybe great for you.
When you see the thumbnail for that episode, it's gonna be, I think, episode 41. You're gonna be like, "Oh, I think I knew what she changed."
Oh my god. Bro, you're making me so nervous.
It's great. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm so glad I'm getting this inside scoop. This is amazing. Thank you.
You're okay. We love to see it.
Well, I can't wait. I'll be nervous, but I'm excited. Okay. Our next question, Ivy Bloom asked, could you tell us how your characters/story has changed through the years and show us some older art of your characters? And could you tell us more about your precious beans?
So many layers.
So many layers. Okay, start. Could you tell us more about, could you tell us how your characters/story has changed throughout the years?
Well, for Swordcatcher, I only started writing it like last year, so
Yeah.
I mean, there has been quite a bit change. At first, it was just Lucas and Thomas, and not a lot of other interactions with other people. So changing it to the originals, you know, I'm adding in more interactions with like Maria. We got the introduction of M, which was a very prominent character in Star Children, but people who only read Swordcatcher are like, who's this goth mommy? Like, who is she?
Uh-huh.
And then like, you know, Cheru, Stella, Soleil, Calliope, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, with those introductions of those other characters, you know, those interactions changes like the course of the story. It's kind of like that little butterfly effect. So, you know, different things happen. The scenes are different. Some things are the same. I'm being very vague because I'm trying not to spoil.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like Star Children, for example, my first idea was angsty star falls from the sky because he wants to run away from home, and then there's some like monsters chasing after him. And as I've gone on, it's changed to more of like this very complex, you know, issue of not everything is black and white. Power struggles, you know, we have this goddess of light and creation that we think is all good and all knowing, but in reality, there's even she is gray, morally gray. We think of this god of night and destruction, we think that he is pure evil, but again, he's more of the gray, he's not. So it's kind of, oh god, there's just so many things that change. I'm constantly like editing myself because I'm always thinking about more ideas. I always I can like see my art style in my head like an animation, so I'm always like kind of daydreaming like certain scenes of like how I can write it and how I can make it the most organic as possible. So I'm always just kind of changing, editing myself. I take a lot of inspiration from my own conversations with me and my husband. I had my husband proofread my story. As he was reading it, he's like, Thomas is a lot like me, isn't he? This is something I have actually said before. And I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? He's a very much ADHD man who loves to C&D and is a huge nerd. So yeah. But I can always send you over some of my older art if I can find it. Lucas originally was it was from a totally different story that I was actually role-playing with a friend of mine. We had this like magic fantasy story that we were just, you know, role-playing with each other, writing together, and he was supposed to be like this like wizard, right? He still had the issues with like his family have like and all that sort of stuff, but he wasn't related to Maria at first. And then when I created Maria, and then I started writing Star Children, I'm like, oh, well, I can use Lucas, and I can make Lucas Maria's like older brother. And then I looked at the designs of those two. I'm like, I see a consistency here. I see they look very. I did not realize. I'll just make them twins. So like it was when I was making one of my episodes for Star Children. I literally was like a split-second decision. Like they're twins now. I was just gonna make them siblings, but they're twins now. Okay, I'm gonna go with that forever. So I made a lot of split-second decisions with making Star Children. I don't make many of those right now. I try to plan out a little bit more ahead, but because I don't want to suffer the consequences later. Especially with that impulsive change I made.
Oh, brother.
It's fine.
Oh, the last part of that question. Could you tell us more about your precious beans, your dogs?
Oh, my beans, my dogs. So, Oso is American Shepherd mix. He is an absolute drama queen. I have never met a dog more sassy than this man.
You should meet my dog Minnow.
He loves to talk back at me. I remember we got him groomed because he's a double-coated dog.
Yeah.
We get him groomed. He does not like to be brushed by us. He literally, this dog is like 65 pounds and he becomes liquid when we try to brush him. So we have to get him professionally brushed. So he had some matting on his little tush. So they had to cut the matting out.
Oh my goodness.
And he refused to sit down for 2 weeks. So you know, like downward facing dog, the yoga pose? That was him. He would just pace around. He would not put his butt on the ground.
Oh my
And he would complain at us because his butt was cold when we have hardwood floor. Yeah. Right now, for the past month, he hasn't got onto the bed or the couch because he got a static shock. So he won't go on the bed or the couch. Yeah.
Oh, what a diva.
Yeah, he I don't even know. Like, this man, I call him my crack cocaine addict. Like, he is absolutely just filled with adrenaline and rage and love and comfort. And he's soft as a cloud, but his little teeth he likes to chew on. But
oh my goodness.
So, he loves to steal pillows. So when he is on the bed, I will be laying on my pillows so nicely and gracefully, and then he just slams his little fat butt right on my head. So, yeah. Monty, he's my pit bull American Shepherd mix. We adopted him back in July of 2023, right a couple months after we got our home and we got married. And he is just the sweetest little thing. Like, he's a super quiet dog, which we were not used to because we're used to Oso's sass and commentary about everything. But Monty, he's super sweet. He literally just wants everyone to love him. Every time someone new comes by, if they do not pet him, he will cry. He's like, please love me. He loves blankets, so he loves to steal blankets. So I have one dog that likes pillows. I have one that likes blankets. So that means I do not get my bed at all. And I have a king-size bed. He doesn't know how to play fetch, so he tries. Oso's fantastic at fetch. So it is hilarious trying to play fetch with them, and Monty just he jumps too soon, and it's just an ultimate fail. He ends up getting just hit by the ball with his snoot.
Oh my goodness.
They're my sons. I love them very much.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah. So cute. Okay. Our next question, Hollow Nest asked, you clearly love a slow burn. Me too. Can you tell us why? And what makes these stories unique to you?
Well, the thing is, for multiple reasons, slow burns are nice because for romance stories, one of the big things is getting the couple together. When you get the couple together really early, you get a lot of reader drop off because they just want to see their couple, their ship get together.
They want
and then some of them will just stop reading from there. They get the satisfaction of like, hey, a ship got together, great, off to the next ship. So having a slow burn, one, gives you a lot more time to help develop the characters, where you're actually showing character development. You're not just being like, hey, look at this character, now look at this character, and now they kiss, and now they're together. You actually get to learn more about these characters. And I don't know, I like that tension. Like, I like, those little tiny moments where like they almost kiss. Or, like,
will they? Will they?
Will they? You definitely will. They will. It's just a matter of time when. Yeah. I just think it keeps it a little bit more interesting, especially for like the, I guess, normal stories when you don't have like the fun magic, and like if it's more of a character driven story versus like a plot driven story. Like, I definitely have more to plan out after the boys get together. It's definitely going to be towards the end of the season. Like, there's no surprise there. I mean, it's going to happen towards the end of the season. Yeah. But like after season 1, I'm going to be diving more. I'm like, okay, you have these two characters. They're now together. Now they have these problems they got to deal with, but they're going to deal it together. Yeah. So I guess that's why I feel I'm the same way when I'm reading a comic. Once the characters get together, I'm less inclined to read it, even though like I want to. But I just like that kind of build up, and it's hilarious watching my audience scream at me. In the comments, they make the most unhinged comments when I have a cliffhanger, and I'm literally like crying laughing when I read some stuff, especially like I think it was episode like 34 had a really mean cliffhanger, and the comments I got were just a reader called me a little shit, and I'm still laughing at it. I'm rotating, you little shit. I'm like, this is good.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of the person that loves to torture their audience. I have done many polls before where I'm like, hey, who's the true villain of my stories? And I'll put me as like a gag answer, and every single time it's always me. And I'm like, I see a trend.
That's
like,
amazing.
Well, I love these characters very much. I do love to torture them, and I very much love to torture my audience. I have a nice little cup that says my readers' tears, and it is excellent. I love to drink from it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. Okay. Our last fan question, Aloe Vern asked, what gave you the idea to do the normal world alternate universe of the boys from Star Children, which has magic in it?
So kind of, and I think I kind of answered this one a little bit before. It's just a lot of burnout. I wanted to use the characters just in a different way. I wanted to focus on more Lucas and Thomas since they were just kind of side characters, and they were fan favorites. They were definitely some of my favorites as well, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to make a comic with them. I feel like the story and the universe I made with Star Children has a lot of opportunity for a lot of side comics because I have such a large cast. But I didn't want it to be super complex, because if I made it within the Star Children universe, then the boys wouldn't have gotten together until like later down the road, which if you're going to read a romance comic and the boys don't get together by the end of the comic, then what's the point of the comic?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to change things like that. Again, with those like mistakes that I made when making Star Children, not picking it out, or like I made those impulsive changes of like, hey, I want these characters to get together, but I decided too late, that sort of thing. I just thought it would be a lot simpler if I just did a very basic college romance, not having to worry about the complexities of an intergalactic war looming down onto them.
Okay, that is all of the fan questions that I have for you. Thank you, Ro, for coming on the podcast today. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and
thank you.
It was really great. I'm glad we could talk about some, they're more serious topics, but I'm really glad we could talk about them.
For sure,
I think it's so important.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm very proud of the story that I have written, and I'm glad that so many people also appreciate the story. And I'm very excited to see what I can continue on making with it. I have the episodes I've already made. I'm really, really proud of. I cannot wait for them to be uploaded and updated to see everyone's comments. So we're gonna have a lot of fun, and I can't wait.
That episode 41. I am nervous. I can see you brewing your cauldron of readers' tears and emotions over there.
Yes, lots of screamings. I can already tell. A lot of Ro-taniah, you evil person, you! Oh my God! Scream! Yeah, great. We love it.
Oh my gosh, love it. Amazing. So thank you for coming on the podcast. It was such a treat. I'm so glad we could chat today. I will plug all of your links in our show notes. I will include links to your social media, your Instagram. All of your comics will be linked in there as well. Go read Star Children. Go read Starcatcher. Go read the Exorcist bracelets. They're incredible. Ro is so talented and amazing. You got to give her comics a chance.
Thank you.
So if you found this episode entertaining or informative, give us a like. Follow us on our social medias at the Webtoon Wave. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. You can go to our Instagram and stay up to date on all of our future guests and news and updates. We got some really exciting guests in our lineup. So stay creative, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.